the morning my aunt tried to have me removed from my own father's hospital room. I did not cry. I did not raise my voice. I stood in the doorway of room 14C at Mercy General, looked her straight in the eyes, and said, "I'll go, but I won't forget this." She smiled like she had already won. That was the first mistake she ever made around me. My father built Callaway Financial Services from a single rented desk in a strip mall in Columbus, Ohio. He spent 31 years turning that desk into a firm with 18 employees and a reputation people trusted with their life savings. I started there part-time at 16, then full-time at 24 after my accounting degree. By 28, I managed 3 of his largest client portfolios. My dad and I shared a language: numbers, patterns, what normal looks like. My aunt, Sandra, never set foot in that office while he was healthy. She showed up the day after his stroke. Dad collapsed on a Tuesday in March. Massive ischemic stroke. He could not speak. He could not sign his name. The only thing he could do was squeeze my hand twice when I asked if he recognized me. The doctor said recovery was possible but uncertain. I slept in a chair by his bed for 4 straight days, drinking bad hospital coffee and talking to him just to fill the silence. On day 5, Sandra arrived with a rolling suitcase, a notarized document, and a smile I only ever see on people who are about to take something that does not belong to them. She said she had power of attorney. She said Dad signed it 11 months earlier. She said she was the appropriate choice, as his only living sibling. She said it to me in the hallway, not even lowering her voice. I called our family attorney that afternoon. He confirmed it. The document was valid. He also confirmed the part that made my stomach drop. A later amendment covered inheritance of personal assets, not the business. The power of attorney gave my aunt authority to act for my father in financial and legal matters while he was incapacitated. That meant she had authority over Callaway Financial Services. 2 weeks later, she restructured the firm's office manager, Darlene, who had worked for my father 19 years. Darlene was out by Thursday with a severance check. The next week, Sandra brought in her own bookkeeper, a 23-year-old named Tyler, who had handled finances for her nail salon in Dayton. He smiled a lot. He asked no questions. I would later understand why she needed that. She did not fire me. She was smarter than that. She kept me in the building but reduced my client list, moved my desk into the back corner, and introduced herself to major accounts as interim director. She made it look smooth. Clients told me, with sympathy they could not fully hide, that things would return to normal once my father recovered. I kept showing up. I kept working. I kept watching. 3 months in, and long-term client, a restaurant group owner named Mr. Patton, pulled me aside in the parking lot. He said he was not trying to get me in trouble, but money had moved in his account in ways he did not remember authorizing. He said the amounts were not enormous. He said he was not even sure it was a problem. He just wanted someone he trusted to know. I thanked him. I told him I would look into it. Then I went home and sat at my kitchen table for 2 hours completely still, because I already knew what I was going to find. I was deciding if I was ready to find it. The next morning, I arrived before anyone else. My dad had given me access credentials years ago, and Sandra never thought to revoke them. I pulled 3 months of internal transaction reports and went line by line in the gray morning light. Individually, the transfers looked small, routine, the kind of thing clients never notice. A little adjustment here, a fee reallocation there. But I had audited accounts for years, and I knew what our fee structures were supposed to look like. I knew what client disbursements were supposed to look like. Within 40 minutes, I could see it. Somewhere between 60, 000, and 80. $000 had been quietly redirected across multiple client accounts in a pattern designed to look like routine management adjustments. It was not routine. It was structured. It was the slow drain. The exact pattern I learned about in a continuing education seminar on financial elder abuse. Small enough that no single client screams. Wide enough that the thief walks away with real money. Sandra was running the slow drain across 18 accounts at once. I printed what I needed, logged out, and drove straight to my father's hospital room. He was awake that morning. More awake than usual. His eyes tracked me. I sat beside him, held his hand, and told him I was going to fix it. I do not know how much he understood. But when I said the firm's name, his hand tightened around mine. That was enough. That afternoon, I contacted an independent estate litigation attorney. Ms. Park. Not our family attorney. I had already decided I did not know who Sandra had talked to. Ms. Park listened, without interrupting. Then she said two things. The pattern sounded like fiduciary fraud. And I needed more than printed spreadsheets. I needed source files, access logs, and evidence of intent. I told her I understood. What I did not tell her was I had been watching Sandra's habits for months. She used one password for everything. She was careless in small moments, because she believed she was untouchable. So I came in on a Saturday morning. The office was empty. I logged in with my authorized credentials and pulled the full internal audit trail for 4 months. I checked Tyler's directory and found copies of modified ledger entries sitting in a folder labeled Archive Backups. Either sloppy or a setup to blame him later. I copied everything to a drive. I was back in my car by 9:15 a.m. that Friday. I got a call from Gerald, one of the firm's senior partners. He said Sandra had scheduled a formal mediation meeting for the following Wednesday at a downtown law office to discuss the future direction of the firm. She invited the 2 senior partners, Tyler, and our family attorney. She did not invite me. I told Gerald, I will be there. I did not sleep the night before. I went through every document, every transfer, every argument Sandra's attorney might use. By 5 a.m., I had 3 pages of talking points. By 9:40, I was downtown, walking the last few blocks because I needed air. 3 blocks from the building. I nearly collided with an older woman stepping out of a diner. Late 70s. Small frame. Gray blazer. Tote bag with the Ohio State Bar Association seal. I apologized. She waved it off and glanced at the folder in my hands. The tab read, Callaway Financial. She stopped. Jim Callaway's firm? She asked. Yes, I said. He's my father. Her face changed. I've known your father for 20 years. We served on an ethics board together. How is he? I told her about the stroke. I told her about the meeting. I told her I was trying to stop someone from taking everything he built. I do not know why I said that to a stranger. Maybe because it was morning and I was exhausted and truth felt like the only option. She studied me and said, Walk with me. Her name was Eleanor Marsh, retired administrative law judge. 40 years as an attorney. 12 years on a disciplinary board. She asked one question that mattered. Do you have documentation? Or do you have suspicion? I have documentation, I said. We walked to the building while she scanned my summaries on the sidewalk, like this was just another case file. Then she handed them back. This is textbook fiduciary breach, she said. If your source files hold up. This is not just civil. This is criminal exposure. Then she said, I would like to come in with you. If you're willing. If you were in my place, would you walk in alone? Or bring the scariest professional witness you could find? Comment yes or no. I said yes. We walked in together. Sandra was already seated at the head of the conference table, in my father's chair. Her attorney to her right. Tyler 2 seats down. Gerald and Brenda on the opposite side. Our family attorney sat at the far end. looking like a man who had not slept all week. Sandra looked up when I entered. The smile she started to form stopped completely when she saw Eleanor behind me. Her face went very still, like someone doing rapid math. That was the moment I knew she understood. The room had changed. Miss Park entered through a side door seconds later and sat beside me. Eleanor sat at the other end of the table, set her tote down, and folded her hands. She said nothing yet. She did not need to. Her presence was loud enough. Sandra's attorney opened with polished language about transitional leadership and firm restructuring while my father remained incapacitated. He said, "Transitional," 4 times. I waited until he finished. Then I slid the folder to Gerald and Brenda. "Before we discuss the future of this firm," I said, "we need to discuss what has been happening to it for the last 4 months." Sandra said my name in a warning tone. I kept going. I walked through the transfer pattern calmly, with dates, dollar amounts, and account reference numbers. Ms. Park provided copies and referenced the source files on my drive. I explained the access logs and the archive backups folder in Tyler's directory. Tyler's face changed in real time. He realized he was being positioned as the fall guy if this broke open. Sandra's attorney objected and called my source acquisition legally questionable. Miss Seppens. Park cited my father's credentialing setup and the Ohio statute on authorized system access by designated business partners. The argument was short. Then Eleanor spoke for the first time. She addressed Sandra's attorney by name. That alone rattled him. She said the cases pursued most aggressively were not always the loud, obvious thefts. They were the structured, small-scale manipulations done under the cover of fiduciary authority. She said the documentation in front of him matched that pattern. She said if this room did not address it directly today, the people she would call this afternoon would be less interested in quiet resolution. Sandra's attorney asked for a recess. 22 minutes later, he returned and offered voluntary remediation. Pay it back. Sign papers. Walk away. I said no, because this was not a family disagreement. It was fraud against real clients who trusted my father's firm with their finances. That does not get erased with a check in a conference room. Before I tell you what happened after mediation, would you accept a quiet payback? Or push for formal charges? Comment 1 or 2. Ms. Park filed a formal complaint that afternoon. The forensic review took 6 weeks. Investigators confirmed $94,000 redirected across client accounts over 4 months. Prusvingsept 000 taken from the firm's operating reserve as transitional consulting fees. While my father lay in a hospital bed unable to speak, Tyler cooperated fully. He had been fed instructions in pieces with cover explanations. He cried during the interview. Not because he was guilty, but because he realized how close he came to being destroyed for someone else's greed. Sandra was charged. She accepted a plea agreement the following spring. Full restitution, supervised probation, permanently barred from serving as a fiduciary agent in Ohio, community service. The vulnerable adult exploitation charge stayed. Her attorney tried hard to drop it and failed. My father is not the same person he was before the stroke. He can speak now. Slowly. He walks with a cane. He comes to the office twice a week. Not to work, but because he says the smell of old coffee and paper makes him feel like himself. We meet every Tuesday afternoon. I walk him through the week. Sometimes he finds the exact right word. And those words matter more than anything. Darlene came back. The clients were notified individually. Every dollar was restored. Most stayed. Mr. Patton sent a fruit basket and a handwritten note that said he trusted the right person. And he wanted me to know he knew that. Eleanor Marsh sent my father a card. He read it 3 times and kept it on his desk. People will say stories like this are too convenient. That it does not work this way. I can tell you what is real. The money was real. The clients were real. The folder was real. The silence in that room when Sandra saw who walked in with me was real. Some outcomes happened because someone stayed up, watched closely, documented everything, and showed up early with receipts. If you want more stories where the truth shows up with the right person beside it, hit subscribe.